All right, so we started with number... Okay, so it was not made clear whether or not you needed to give the final answer. And I did want you to give the final answer, and the reason is so that... The reason is you have to look at that final number to be able to determine what kind of number it is. So the first one, did you have to solve anything? No. Yeah, several of them were already solved for you. Okay, so the first number was 6. So when you do this, you should have had your ISN open to, what is it, 23? Yeah. Okay, and you're looking at the right-hand side because the right-hand side tells you how you classify these numbers. Please make sure that you are not being rude and distracting. Okay, you ask yourself 6. 6 is a whole number that is positive. So what is the most specific name that I can give it? A natural number. Okay, hold on, I want to take a picture of this little ad. Thanks for bearing with me. This way the people that are gone will have something to look at. Okay. Let me set this up to the side. So we have 6. So you ask yourself, can this number be represented? Is it a positive whole number? Yes. So the most specific name you can give it is a natural number, which is right here. Okay, and then you can call it everything else that's outside of it. Notice this is like a circle. The only thing that it cannot be is irrational, because does irrational fall within those boxes, or is it a separate box? Separate. So you could say that this is a natural number, a whole number, an integer, a rational number, and a real number. And you would obviously write these words out, right? You wrote them out. I'm just going to use the first letter of them just so I could fit it on my screen. All right, so that was the first one. The next one is a negative square root of 36. Do you have to solve this one? Yeah. Yes. What is the square root of 36? 6. Which kind of 6 do I want? The negative one. So is it a natural number? No. Is it a whole number? Nope. It starts with integers. So I would say it's an integer, a rational number, and a real number. Okay, the next one is the square root of 10. Oh, I don't want to do that. Square root of 10. So looking at this, ask yourself, is 10 a perfect square? No, it's a non-perfect square, because if you actually took the square root of 10, you would get what? 3.16 something ... Is there a repeating pattern? No, it just is this random decimal that keeps going on and on. So that falls into what category? Irrational. Good. This is an irrational number, and it's real. Because anything that falls on this page in your ISN is a real number. I think there's only one answer that's not real on your assignment. Nope, just kidding. It was 27 that was not real. The square root of 4 divided by 0. Because a number divided by 0 is not real. Okay, next one is 1/3. What I would do is always start with that smallest box in the middle natural number. Ask yourself, is it a positive whole number? 1/3. Is it a positive whole number? No. Is it a whole number? No. Is it an integer? No. Is it a fraction or a decimal? Yes. 1/3 is the fraction. And if you turned it into a decimal, it would be 0.333 repeating. So it's a repeating decimal. So it is rational and real. Square root of 2.56. If you took the square root of 2.56, you would get 1.6. Is it a natural number, a whole positive number? No. Is it a whole number? No. Is it an integer?
Yeah.
Is it? So listen, integers, natural numbers, whole numbers, and integers cannot be decimals. It has to be a number that you can count by. Like -3, -2, -1, 0, 1, 2, 3. None of those are decimals. So it's not an integer. If you look at rational numbers, is it a decimal or a fraction? Yeah, it's a decimal, 1.6. Does it terminate or stop? Yes, it stops at the 6. So it is a rational number and real. The next one you have to solve. Square root of 36 plus 6. What is the square root of 36? 6. 6 plus 6 is 12. Is this a positive whole number? Yeah, so is it a natural number? It is. So it's a natural number, which means it's a whole number, which means it's an integer, which means it's a rational number, which means it is a real number. (37) is 0.21 repeating. Okay, it is not a natural number because it is not a positive whole number. It is not a whole number. It is not an integer. Is it a rational number? So you ask yourself, okay, is it a decimal? Yes, so that puts me into the rational number category. But I have to check. It either has to be repeating or terminating. This one, repeating. So it is rational. So rational and real. 38. Hold on, I'm going to try something here. No, that's not going to work. Trying to make room here. There we go. Perfect. Next one is square root of 100 divided by 20. Now, some people are asking me, do you go 100 divided by 20 first and then take the square root of it? Or do you take the square root of 100 first, then divide by 20? This is how you know. If it wanted you to do 100 divided by 20 first before the square root, it would look like this. Do you see the difference? 100 divided by 20 is all inside the radical symbol. The one on top, the radical symbol is only around what number? Or over what number? 100. So you only take the square root of 100. Then after you do that is when you would divide it by 20. Okay, so let me rewrite this. You're going to take the square root of 100, which is what? 10 over 20, which is going to reduce to half, right? Your zeros cancel out. It's like dividing by 10. Okay, is it a natural number? No. Whole number? No. Integer? Okay, you have to ask yourself, an integer has to be a whole number, which is, a whole number is a whole of something. Is half a whole of something? No. So it's not an integer. Is it a fraction or a decimal? Yes, but you have to decide. Fractions and decimals can either fall in rational numbers or irrational numbers. This is how you know. You ask yourself this question. Half. If I turn it into a decimal, does it terminate or stop? Yeah, it is 0.5. It stops right there. So it's a terminating decimal, which places it in the good rational, and if it's rational, it is real. Next one is negative 4.3134. Okay, if it is a decimal or a fraction, it automatically places it in one of two categories. Rational or irrational. You have to ask yourself this question. Does it terminate or repeat? So, yeah, does it terminate? Yes. It stops in the tens, hundreds, thousands. It stops in the 10,000th place. It stops. It terminates. Therefore, it is rational and real. Square root of 4.5. Is 4.5 a perfect square? Okay, if you're not sure, take the square root of 4.5, and you get 2.1. 1, 2, 1, 3, dot, 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 right? So what is it? It's a decimal. It's a decimal, but it does not terminate and it does not repeat a pattern. Therefore, it is irrational and real. Anything that falls on this page is a real number. Negative 312. Okay, is it a positive whole number? No, so it's not natural, it is not whole. Is it an integer? Yeah, it's a whole number and it's a negative, so that's fine. That falls in the integer category, so we're going to call it an integer, a rational number, and real. Good.
For the negative 4.3134, what does that be in integer?
Not an integer. So an integer has to be a whole number. If it was just negative 4, that would be an integer. But because it has that decimal on it, it puts it into the rational category. Anytime you have a decimal or a fraction, you can just like scoot right back up to the rational number. Okay? Unless it's a whole number. Like if I did a fraction of 4 over 2, can I reduce that to a whole number? It's 2. Okay. Let's see, 0 divided by 7, or 0 sevenths. What is it? Yeah, 0. Is it a natural number? No, but it is a whole number. So you're going to say it's a whole number, it's an integer, it's a rational number, and it's a real number. Okay, now for 44 and 47, you had to manipulate your numbers on some of them to find a number that qualified for what it was asking for. So 44 says an irrational number that is less than negative 3. So what is an irrational number? It's a fraction or a decimal that it goes on and on forever, but it doesn't have a pattern. Okay, so could I have picked a negative 4?
I put negative.
Okay, but ask yourself, is that irrational? You're right, negative 5 is smaller than negative 3, but is it an irrational number? What do you say?
I just said negative 3.5698.
Negative 3 point
Like 5698.
5698 dot dot dot.
Yeah.
Okay, is this irrational? Does everyone agree? Here's the question you ask yourself. Is it a decimal that goes on and on? Yes. Is there a repeating pattern or not a repeating pattern? There's not a pattern. If there's not a pattern, then it is an irrational number. So that would work. Could you do the negative square root of 10? Okay. Because the square root of 10 is like 3.1 something something something, not repeating, and it's negative. What'd you do? Oh, I did? Okay, I'll go back to it. So 44. Does anyone need me to check their number to see if it is irrational and less than 3? Okay, 43 says, explain the difference between a negative square root of 16 and the square root of a negative 16. So can we classify the negative square root of 16? Yeah, what is it? Good, because if you solve this, you would get 4. What kind of 4? A negative 4. So it is an integer, rational, and real. Okay?
Just real, and then like the other one is not real.
Okay, so write down what you do not have in there. Because this is just so that we can learn what we missed and so that you know for in the future. Okay, because it's not only just a real number, it's also rational, it's also an integer. Number 43. The next one, if you tried this in your calculator, or if you knew this from me telling you, remembered, can you take the square root of a negative number? Yeah, you'll get this weird syntax error. So when you get that syntax error, it means that it is undefined, which means that it is not real. That's the difference between those two numbers. Negative square root of 16 and the square root of a negative 16. That negative sign has to be on the outside of that radical symbol. 45, a rational number that is less than 0.3. Rational.
I put 0.2.
And less than 0.3. So 0.2 would work.
I put negative 1, but that not work.
Negative 1 would work. I'm going to talk about negative 1 for just a minute. Is it smaller than 0.3? Yeah. Is it a rational number?
Yeah.
Sure is. Because is it an integer? If it's an integer, it's also a rational number. So that would work. Does anyone have anything else, or do you know for a fact that is correct? Rational number less than 0.3. 46 is a real number between 5/9 and 6/9. Now, 5/9 and 6/9. Someone said 3/5.
I said
How did you prove 3/5?
I went 5 divided by 9, which is 0.5555 repeating, and then I did 6 divided by 9, which is 0.666 repeating.
Okay.
And
Yeah.
3/5
Hold on.
0.6.
3/5 is 0.6 not repeating, so it would fall between that. Very good. So the important thing is that you're able to prove it, right? Okay, another person did this. They changed their denominator to the next multiple of 18. So 18. So let's convert to a common denominator of 18. Times by 2, times by 2. Times by 2, times by 2. What's between 10 18ths and 12 18ths? 11 18ths will work. Abby.
I just put 0.578.
0.578 will work because you can. How did you prove it? You converted everything to decimals? Good? Ben?
For like 46, instead of putting like 3.5, I just put 5.5.
Wait, for which? Wait, what?
Well, that's exactly what I did.
For 46,
Okay.
I put 5.5.
Wait, did you do 5.5? Okay.
5.5 is 9.
Like a decimal.
Oh, a decimal in a fraction.
Actually possible.
You can't put decimals with fractions if you're treating your final answer as a fraction. Now, if we were doing ratios and proportions, yeah, you can do a decimal in a ratio or a proportion, but you cannot, you can't have a decimal in a fraction. This is why, if you would have taken it to 18, 5.5 divided by 9 is actually going to equal, it should equal 11 18ths, shouldn't it? Because that's exactly in the middle of those two equivalent fractions. CJ?
I've done 1/9.
Not 1/9. 1/9 would be down here, which is going to be smaller. I needed it right in the middle. Okay, look at the next one. Last one is a real number between -3